I'm James and thanks for tuning in to Ebuyer. In this video, I'm going to be putting together a budget gaming PC for 2021 using an awesome Neutron Lab case available exclusively at Ebuyer, as well as one of Ebuyer's great value CPU and motherboard bundles. This is one of the best ways to buy parts at really affordable, great value prices in 2021. I'm going to walk you through all of the components we selected, and then I'm going to put the system together. I've made some good progress with the build. I started off by installing the CPU into the motherboard, our Ryzen 5 5600X, and then followed that up by screwing down the included stock cooler. This is really easily done with just 4 screws on each corner of the cooler itself. Once I'd gone ahead and done that, I moved on to the memory. Our dual channel 16GB kit works a charm and fits really nicely into this very budget oriented motherboard. RAM DIMMs only go in one way around, so be careful, and if you get this wrong, don't panic, just flip them around and you'll be A-OK. The final step then was to install the M.2 SSD. This is much easier than a typical SATA drive, as you simply slot it in to a gold connector and secure it down with an included screw. There's no cables to wire or manage, and it simply sits just here above your graphics card, which we'll install of course a little bit later on. And with that, the motherboard assembly is essentially done. The form factor is nice and compact, and it looks pretty good actually, with this kind of dark colour aesthetic, which should look good in our case when we go ahead and continue building the system up. The next stage then is to move this into the case or the chassis before looking at the graphics card and finally the power supply. In order to go ahead and move the motherboard assembly into the case, we're just going to pop out the way the rest of our components. I touched on this case briefly earlier on. This is the Neutron Lab Sphere, an awesome budget ATX chassis with RGB and plenty of cool features. With a mesh front panel and a tempered glass side panel, the case looks the part and performs well with nice low resistance airflow, dust filters, a strong I/O, and overall a good build quality at a great affordable price point make it an awesome addition to this build, where if you couldn't already tell, we're really trying to extrapolate as much value as possible. Neutron Lab is one of the newest brands in tech and gaming with affordable products made from high quality components. You can see the tempered glass I touched on earlier, front and center on the side of the case, and we're just going to go ahead and remove this. Removing as many side panels as possible really does make the build process that little bit easier. There is an important step we need to remember as well before we screw the motherboard in, and that's the I/O shield. This comes with your motherboard and provides a series of unique cutouts that mirror the I/O on the rear. This slots into the back of the case and provides a nice kind of aesthetic interface between the ports and the chassis. Performance-wise it doesn't do anything, but aesthetically it does make a huge difference. Just be careful because the I/O shield can be a little bit sharp. It will go in no problem, but it's just something to watch out for. Once you've done this, you can then go and install the motherboard itself. This process is a bit more lengthy as you've got plenty of screws to actually fasten down, but as you can see, it's pretty simple, pretty sleek. Just be patient, it might take a little bit of time. Moving on to the graphics card or the GPU, that's the next component in today's video. This MSI card is also the OC edition, which means you do get some slightly faster speeds than the factory reference design. And I think actually it looks pretty good as well with this quite cool, quite sleek MSI cooler and beefed up 2-slot cooler. I'm going to install the graphics card into the top PCI slot just here, and in order to do that, we will need to remove a couple of the PCI retention covers at the back of the case. That's what paves the way for this, our back PCI GPU shield, to fit in without a problem. Looking good, so the graphics card's in and we can move over to the power supply. I've already touched on why this is a great choice for the build in today's video. But in essence, it's a non-modular budget unit with plenty of wattage to last us not only for the present, but also thankfully for the future. It's also fairly on the compact side, which does give us a little bit of extra room for cable management, which we might need considering it is a non-modular unit. We're going to install this into the rear of the case by spinning our chassis around and then picking an orientation. You could either go for a fan up orientation, which pulls air in from the case, or in this Neutron Lab chassis, go fan down. This will pull fresh air in from underneath the case and just keep that power supply that little bit cooler. If you're planning to put this on a rug or a thick carpet, go for the fan up orientation, as you will need some airflow clearance at the bottom of the case. It really easily installs a little something like this. Just line it up with the 4 holes at the back of the chassis and then fasten it down through each of the screw hole locations. Really simple, really easy stuff, and goes in without a problem. And once we've gone and secured the power supply down, we can just plug up some of our cables and wiring. From the motherboard power connector to the CPU power cable and any front panel connectors as well for front panel USB, 3 USB 2 and HD audio. Let's go ahead though and actually turn the system on for the first time. This is the very first attempt at booting the PC. And the fans are spinning. It looks like it's working okay to me. I'm loving the addressable RGB as well on this case, not only at the front, but also with the included rear 120mm RGB fan. I think with WoW, we should be able to cycle through lots of different RGB modes with a click of a button on the Neutron Lab sphere. Cable management as well is also not too bad. We could probably make that one a little bit more tight in terms of keeping it neat and tidy, chuck these ones away, but otherwise I'm really happy with how my build has turned out. And with that, that pretty much wraps it up for our first look, unboxing and overview of my own PC build here on the Ebuyer channel. This is a really awesome budget build for those of you looking to get started with gaming in 2021. If you'd like to learn more about any of the parts mentioned or pick them up for yourself, they'll be linked at ebuyer.com in the description below this video. Thank you for watching though, and as always, we'll see you soon.